Friday, November 6th, 2020, here at my hotel on the beach at a place called Whalebone, North Carolina, just south of Nags Head. Have a few places I'm going to stop in the general vicinity this morning on my way north. Don't have a lot of time to tarry on the beach, but I think I will go down briefly, walk around a bit, dip the toes in the surf and all that good stuff. But I thought I would start out with just a view from the balcony of my hotel. A lot of humidity here, of course, and my lens keeps fogging up because it was in the air-conditioned room overnight. This is the view on the other side of the hotel. This Comfort Inn is one of the more affordable places, but there's a lot of rust, and it is an oceanfront thing. There's going to be some, but the maintenance seems to be a bit deferred. Last time I had a chance to walk on an ocean beach, I didn't have the sense to take my shoes off first, and I was shaking sand out of my car floor mats and shoes and socks for the next several days. long time ago, I was driving my AMC Gremlin down to the Florida Keys, and I'd stopped in Jacksonville at a campsite to camp for the night. On the way down, I was getting eaten alive by midges or something, so I just decided to get back in the car and drive some in the wee hours. And I got down around, I think it was Daytona Beach, and none of the hotels had any vacancy. And I ended up just finding a beach access road and driving out on the beach. It was pitch black. I could hear the surf, and there were storms out to sea, lots of lightning, and I just sort of laid on the hood of my car, leaning up against the windshield like Wayne and Garth, and dropped off to sleep. And in the morning, I woke up and I was a lot closer to the surf than I thought I was, and I don't know how high it was when I pulled in because I couldn't see it, but it was lapping on my front wheels, and I was sure it wasn't that high when I pulled in because I got my feet wet going out to get on the hood. And luckily it was early enough where nobody seemed to be bothered by me being there. But then I saw these signs, you know, you must have a permit to be on the beach with your car. I had to get out of there quick before I either got stuck or got a ticket or something. And there were beach houses kind of like these. And there were a few people coming out with their morning coffee and looking at me and pointing like, what's that idiot doing here? Should have rolled my pants up a little higher. They still got wet. lot of current there, even when it's shallow. Can really feel it pushing you over, and the sand gets kind of fluidized, if you will. And all of a sudden the sand you were standing on that felt firm a minute ago suddenly feels pretty liquid, and then you've got that substantially strong current even though it's shallow. I don't think I've dipped my toes in the ocean since I was a little kid living in Florida, and it brings back memories of that. I'm glad I took a few minutes to come out here to the beach instead of just looking at it from the hotel room. Now I have to go in and change my pants. Alright, continuing on with November 6th, leaving my slightly run down but otherwise pleasant domicile for the night. Pulling onto, I think it's Highway 158, heading north. Next stop, Kill Devil Hills, or Kill Devil Hill. Don't recall if it's plural or not. And the Wright Brothers Memorial. Not quite sure where the border from Whalebone-Nags Head lays here, but ought to be pretty much on top of it. See Foam Motel. Looks like an old classic. An awful lot of houses have these little what do they call those? Widows something or another's. Little platforms stuck up on top of the roof so they can see the ocean over all the taller buildings. Not sure it would do it for me if I had to go up on the top of my roof every time I wanted to see the ocean, if the whole point of living here was to be by the ocean. I don't know. So I'm just leaving the camera run to get a little ambiance here. Okay, those signs say Nags Head, so I guess we're there. Okay, enough of that for the moment. Yeah, I'm not actually on Highway 158. I'm on, looks like State Highway or County Highway 12. And just off to the left is the much larger US Highway 158. It appears that sometimes they're the same road and then they split when the width of the land allows them to be separated. That's my impression anyway. some reason all the houses around here are more drab looking. A number of them are boarded up, or the roofs look beat up. Not sure if that's if they're going for the super rustic beachcomber kind of look, or if it's just a rougher neighborhood. I mean, all the other houses were much more colorful, and all of these are just this drab brownish gray. It just seems odd that they'd all be the same. Well, it's taking too long to go up the slow speed limit, Highway 12, so I'm going to be jumping onto 158 here and get to where I'm going a little bit sooner. I have to admit, Highway 12 is a lot more attractive than this very commercial 158. I think we're coming up on the Wright Brothers Memorial. I can see the obelisk there. Wright Brothers National Memorial. Visitor center off that way. I'm not sure if they charge to get in here or not. It says free turnaround past kiosk, so I think they do charge. So it's $10 per person to get in here. Guess I'll go to the visitor center first. There's the actual monument there, and that's the hill I believe they went down. I was here many years ago, and I seem to remember them saying, you know, due to erosion, the layout looks a lot different than it was back in the day. But I think they've tried to establish that that's the spot where they started their glides. Obviously, all the development around here changed things a lot. So there's an actual runway back there along the tree line, but I think they were saying that they thought the actual flight was kind of from up there and then down along here. We'll find out if that's correct. Have a nod to Otto Lilienthal and Octave Chanute. I really do have to make this a whirlwind trip because I didn't allocate much time to be here today. And this is important too. One of the reasons why the Wright brothers prevailed, where others before them, even better funded people and perhaps better educated people technically, was that they did practical experiments up front before building their flying machines, and were able to establish that a lot of the tables and graphs, charts, and experiments done by others were invalid, and that if they built on that, they would probably never get a machine that really flew. So they went back to basics and experimented from the ground up and learned what they needed to learn to actually make the thing work. So they have a nice section here. This whole section kind of deals with that. Talking about 250 glides in 2 days. Lots of practice. And that was another thing. They didn't just hop in an airplane that was never tested in any way, shape, or form and then try to fly it. They'd done many tests in similar aircraft, difference being that they weren't powered until the famous flight. This is a full-sized, accurate reproduction of the 1903 flyer that took powered flight from a state of fantasy to reality. The original 1903 flyer is on display at the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. And then they outline some of the basic problems to sustained controlled flight. And how they solved each one of them. This part doesn't seem to be much different from what I remember when I was here last. Although they did say the building is recently renovated, and it does look pretty new on all the finishing details. This is the real thing. Propeller from the 1903 flyer. Okay, let's head outside. The Wright brothers made 4 successful sustained powered flights the morning of December 17th, 1903. The Commemorative Granite Boulder, I think that's this, and it says, and a replica monorail, mark the liftoff point of those 4 flights. With the numbered markers being the termination points. The first flight was only 12 seconds and went 120 feet, which is that distance right there. The second flight went 12 seconds, made it 175 feet. Third flight was 15 seconds and made it to 200 feet. And then the fourth flight, they stayed up for 59, or he stayed up for 59 seconds way down there. Since soft sand prohibited launching with conventional wheels, the Wright flyer was placed on a 60-foot monorail with its landing skids resting on a wheeled truck. And that's kind of visible down there. Once the engine started, the flyer was released and slid down the rail until it gained enough speed to lift into the air. These are replica sheds or shacks of what the Wright brothers used when they were out here. There's pictures of the actual ones with the flyer out front. Wilbur and Orville Wright lived and worked here during their 1901, 1902, and 1903 testing seasons, late summer through autumn. The reconstructed buildings in front depict the Wright brothers' 1903 camp. Each year the brothers refined their camp. In 1901 they built a wooden hangar workshop, reconstructed on your right, for their glider, and lived in a tent. They moved their living quarters into the hangar workshop building in 1902. In 1903, needing more space for their flyer, the brothers built a large hangar reconstructed over here. The Wrights welcomed friends who often helped with their glider tests to their 1901 camp. Windy conditions made tent life difficult. The brothers moved into the hangar workshop in 1902, but it made for cramped quarters. The new hangar in 1903 provided space to assemble the flyer. The Wrights shipped the flyer in pieces from their Dayton, Ohio bike shop. So this is closed off, but let's see if we can get a view there. So some shelves, a stove, ladder to the attic, tables, just a big empty shed. December 17th, 1903. On this cold and windy morning, the Wrights achieved the world's first controlled flights. Famous picture of the first flight with Wilbur watching as Orville takes flight. And it does show it being pretty much flat. So they used the hill for their glider tests, but an important point of the powered flight was to take off and land without having to go downhill or fly down or glide down as part of the flight. Being able to land at a point no lower than the takeoff point was an important part of proving their goal. So here's their just a board with a iron or steel strip screwed or nailed to the top of it. This would be their monorail. First successful flight of an airplane was made from this spot by Orville Wright, December 17th, 1903, in a machine designed and built by Wilbur Wright and Orville Wright. This tablet was erected by the National Aeronautics Association. way down to the end. It'll look just about the same as these markers. Marks the end of the first flight. Time 12 seconds, distance 120 feet. Pilot Orville. End of the second flight. About 12 seconds, distance 175 feet. Pilot was Wilbur. Went back to Orville. Distance of about 200 feet. Fourth flight, 59 seconds. Pilot was Wilbur. All you guys who take your cell phones out and use those as your primary camera on vacations, try that, will you? This is why I use a real camera. Time to hike up the hill. Big Kill Devil Hill. When the Wright brothers were here, Big Kill Devil Hill, the hill in front of us, was a massive sand dune. Thousands of times the brothers trekked up this and 3 nearby dunes to conduct glider experiments. Climbing the hill was strenuous. Deep, soft sand caused every step up the slope to slip partway back down. The Wrights were also burdened with carrying their heavy gliders up the hill for each flight. Their tireless efforts paid off as they mastered their flying skills and refined the flight controls. Friends and surfmen from the nearby U.S. life-saving station helped the brothers carry the gliders up the dunes. The Wrights mastered flight controls with their 1902 glider. Starting in 1929, workers planted grass to stabilize Big Kill Devil Hill so the Wright brothers monument could be built on top. But obviously, a lot of the other things that would have been in this general area, some other dunes that were not stabilized, have disappeared for all practical purposes. So it definitely looks different than it did then. And all these trees, they don't really appear in the photos. Use sidewalks to protect this historic hill. Can't come up here with bicycles, rollerblades, or skateboards. Now some people are coming down that way. I'll go up this way. So this is what this area looks like once you get a little elevation. I think it's good they got the trees here, whether they planted them or if they just came by themselves, but at least it provides a visible barrier to all the modern sprawl next to this very important historical site. So all the flights, powered flights, took place there on that first day. Kind of hard to hold the camera steady. You can see where it's raining over there. See the end of the paved runway down there. Not in your way, am I?
I think we're in your way, ain't we?
Got another little bit down there. Another good reason to stay on the path. The soft sand was not a good runway. The brothers built a 60-foot wooden rail with metal stripping to provide a hard and smooth surface for takeoff. A dolly of wood and bicycle hubs was placed on the rail to hold the flyer above the sand as it accelerated towards liftoff. After 4 years of scientific research and rigorous experimentation, and with their 1903 flyer on the rail, the Wrights are set to fly. In unison, they each pull down on a propeller. The engine roars to life and the propellers whip through the air. Only a restraining wire keeps the flyer in place. Orville climbs onto the machine and positions himself into the hip cradle. He releases the restraining wire and the machine slowly moves forward. Wilbur runs alongside to steady the machine. After traveling 40 feet down the rail, the flyer lifts into the air, ushering in the age of flight. Wind, sand, and isolation. Wilbur and Orville Wright tested and proved their flight theories in Dayton, Ohio. To test actual flight, however, they needed a special location to experiment. Using U.S. Weather Bureau statistics, they looked for a place that was windy, sandy, and out of the public eye. They found Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, on the Outer Banks to be the right area to test their gliders. We came down here for wind and sand, and we have got them. Orville Wright to his sister in 1900. Wind helped with the lift, sand provided for a soft landing. The isolation offered privacy from the public. Place is starting to crowd up a little bit. It's a little after 10 in the morning, so I've been here just about an hour. Just gonna run back there to the other side of Big Kill Devil Hill to see that other display I spotted from the top of the hill. scattered around here in the trees that look fairly attractive if one is in the mood for some picnicking. Looks like steel and fiberglass, maybe. Bit of sculpture with what look like some bronze statues reenacting the scene, which is what it looked like from above.
Wright Memorial Drive. In 1/2 mile, turn left on North Croatan Highway. At the traffic light.
Back onto US Highway 158. The town just north of the memorial is Kill Devil Hills, home of supermarkets and beach houses, just like everything else on the Outer Banks. And the Lost Treasure Mini Golf. And then the town north of that is Kitty Hawk.